Living frugally has always had its benefits. Even if you go back into colonial days, there were so many benefits that came from being self sufficient and knowing that you could take care of your family. Today, I'm going to talk to you about some of the comforts of living on the prairie, some of the history behind it, and I'm going to share with you some of my favorite places. I hope you will stick around. Hi, I'm Bonita and I am early retired. I'm not old enough yet for Social Security. I'm living on a low income and I am living off of savings. I live in Kansas on a farm and I have a donkey. This is Brownie. I have frugal videos all year round, and I hope that you will join me this year as we share ways to save money and live our dreams. There's a lot of benefits to living frugally, to living the simple life. There's a lot of comfort and confidence and reassurance in that type of lifestyle, where a lot of times the outer world just doesn't affect us that much. You could even call it like a shock absorber. Sometimes when I'm living on the prairie, yes, I know what's going on in the government and I know what's going on with prices, but I have certain places that I can go or certain things that I can do that make me feel like I have control over what is happening in my world. If I step outside my door and I look around, I feel like I have control of where I'm at. I'm not seeing all of the chaos. I'm not dealing with all of the negativity. I'm just in my own element where I live on the prairie in Kansas. So I hope this video today will be a comfort to you. And maybe you can just sit back and relax and enjoy and listen and think about some of the things that you can control in your corner of the world, no matter where you live, that might bring you some reassurance with some of the things that you may be dealing with today. There's an old saying that comes from the Bible that says, you reap what you sow. And it can be used sometimes as consequences for actions, but it also can mean if you plant things, you will have the benefit of harvesting those things that you planted. My interpretation of that is if you do the work, it should benefit you, right? So, frugal living is that way. Sometimes it looks like we have to put in a little work, but in the end, it benefits us. One of the things that I do clear back from the colonial days ideas is I try to use what I have and I try to make sure that nothing goes to waste. This week, I was getting ready to go to my son's to dog sit for 3 weeks away from home. So I was looking around the house going, what can I make so my husband will have food here that he can pack for lunches? What do I need to take with me so it doesn't go bad because he can't eat all of the stuff that might be on the cusp of going bad? And what can I take with me that I can cook while I'm down there? He can eat some stuff while he's here, and we can get the biggest bang for our buck, which is what I'm always looking to do in retirement. I had a few sweet potatoes that some people might think were a little past their day of prime. But I cut those up and I chopped them up several days before I left. And then I brought them with me to use and make while I'm at my son's. Sweet potatoes are so forgiving and they keep really, really well. And if you cut them up and put them in a baggie, you can wait days upon days before you decide what you're going to do with them. It will preserve them, it will keep them from getting worse in your hanging basket or wherever you have them. And then you can just pull them out easily and use them whenever you want to, making it more convenient to use up some of the things that you have. So I love cutting my sweet potatoes up ahead of time when I see they're starting to go bad. And then I have a quick way to make potatoes sometime during the next week. Now, we received some news that was very discouraging this week, and I'm not really ready to share that with you yet. But I did want to tell you that, sometimes you just have to take a step back and get your head on straight, as they say. You have to decompress so that you can think straight, so that you can do what needs to be done. So, my husband and I went to one of our favorite places to decompress before I left. We have this beautiful tucked away area that is a no side bridge. Now, I don't know how many no side bridges are left in the United States, but you kind of have to know where this is at to go to it. And there's maybe two people that live on this entire dirt road. So we packed our lawn chairs, we took our water, and we went down there and sat them up on the bridge and just listened to the birds and listened to the water rushing because we've had a lot of rain. We just sat in silence and got our heads on straight. There is something to be said for having some place like that you can go. And because I live on the prairie, and because I've lived here most of my life, I know a lot of these little hidden areas that we can go to just have some alone time, some quiet time, some nature time, because for us, that is very healing. I just love this area so much that I had to share it with you. On the way back, we checked out the sand plum bushes that just grow wild in all of our ditches, and they're all in bloom. So it's looking very good that we will have some sand plums this summer. We also looked at the catalpa grove where my dad and my grandpa used to work for 50 cents a day cutting down catalpa trees. And then my grandma would get paid to trim them into fence posts. This is something they did for a little extra money on top of farming. Before I left home, I made one of our pork roasts because they were on sale at Dillon's. I only had one in the freezer, so I purchased one fresh after one of the grandkids' ball games that was right down the street, and I brought it home and cooked that up. We ate it for a couple of meals. We also made some pork and cabbage roll-ups. Oh my gosh, so delicious. The kind of sweet glaze on the pork and then also the crunchiness of the cabbage made it so good. We had BLTs one night with lettuce from the garden. My husband had some gluten-free tortilla wraps with some cottage cheese, and I had a toasted BLT with some avocado. Another day, I used some of that ground pork and hamburger mixture that I had bought here in one of the last videos. I made some meatballs out of my first Depression era cookbook that is listed in the description box below. It has oatmeal and hardly any ingredients with it to bulk it up to make it go further. And then I made some gluten-free pasta made out of corn flour and rice flour, and we had spaghetti. He also has those leftovers at home to take with him for lunches. So it's possible to still eat really good and be frugal with a lot of the shopping tips that we all share. I shared the pork recipe when I was at my son's house in North Carolina. I will link that video at the end if you're interested in that sweet pork that we make. It is to die for. So those are some of the things we had this week. Kansas has so much beauty. Lots of limestone buildings and limestone fence posts are still around. And on my way to my son's, I decided to stop by the little house on the prairie that is here in Kansas. Laura Ingalls Wilder lived here somewhere between 1869 and 1871 for a little over a year. And this is where her baby sister, Carrie, was born. This is an example of the rope lock that used to be used on houses that Laura talks about. It was a length of rope, and doors were latched on the inside with a pivoted wooden bar or bolt. One end dropped into a slot in the jamb, and the string that was threaded through this small hole to the outside was dangling, and it was an immediate welcome. If you pulled on it, it raised the bolt and it opened the door. And when Pa and Ma and the girls all moved away, they left this for the next person to know that the cabin was available for them to move into. Pa Ingalls never owned this plat of land. In fact, they were in the middle of the Osage Nation, which is part of the reason they didn't stay very long. But researchers were able to locate this area because of the hand dug well that is still on the property. They also used the census records. Pa Ingalls and his neighbor helped dig the well. Pa and one of his neighbors helped build the cabin. So it just goes back to that saying that you reap what you sow. If you didn't put forth the effort, it just didn't happen. And many of those things are still the same today. In fact, on my ride out here, my phone was in SOS mode most of the way. There's not even one dot of signal out here. So if you have your GPS on and you shut it off, it will not reload. So you will be lost without a paper map. But here in Kansas, we have a lot of wildlife still. We have a lot of trains that still go throughout here. Much of it in some of the open prairie land is very much the same that it used to be. In fact, the other night I was awakened at 3:52 a.m. because coyotes were howling right outside our bedroom window. In fact, on the way here, I even saw two horses pulling a hay wagon in a field while the farmers pitched hay with a pitchfork into the wagon. A lot of things take you back in time when you drive through Kansas. And that's part of the reason that I find such comfort here. I love the old fashioned ways. I love the old fashioned feel. It's something that just helps relax me. And I hope wherever you are today, I hope you've enjoyed this video and it's brought you some comfort. Let me know in the comments below, what do you think about Kansas? What do you think about frugal living? What do you think about old-fashioned living? Is it something that you're interested in? Kansas has a lot to show. I would like to show you more going forward if you're interested. Thanks for joining me today. I hope to see you in the next video, and I appreciate your support.